We've teleported back to the basement.
Amazing, isn't it, how technology works?
We're not on the road anymore, but we're continuing the last topic. So, I'm Ian.
I'm Steve.
We're talking about the Downbelow RPG. It's a dystopian cyberpunk science fiction setting with a narrative diceless system that we two are creating.
By the way, if you're just joining us, please ignore this next part, but if you've been with us for a little while, or even if this is not the first video you watched and you tuned in during the last couple of episodes, let us know which format you prefer. We want to make this something that is, good for you to watch, as fun as it is for us to perform.
Honestly, I think that there's a big advantage of... starting again that sentence. There's a big advantage to this format because the phone... I don't have a good way to balance the camera, and so it ended up very shaky.
Shameless plea for money. If you'd like us to have higher production values, please support us so that we can buy cooler stuff with which to record.
And
End of shameless plea for money.
And devote more time to it, etc. So, getting to today's topic. Identity on the character sheet. So, your character is defined by a list of traits and a list of stuff as far as the game system is concerned. And that is an important identity to manage, not only when you're creating the character, but as the life of the character continues in the game. So every time you succeed at something and that gives you stuff that's important to the story, that will change your identity as you interact with the game, because you will have another option for using that right tool for the right job success.
This is a classic trope of not only current literature, but even past literature. It was less important even back in the days of J.R.R. Tolkien, because while the heroes of the heroic quests would sometimes gain the magic item that was the key to the next riddle, even more often you'd have something like Aragorn regaining the reforged shards of Narsil, which, while very key to this character, didn't really give him any options he had previously. He could now try to convince people by brandishing reforged sword, but for direct conflict he could still only hit man with sword.
Basically, the difference between the older style that Steve is pointing out and the newer style is that in modern literature we see people and their stuff more as bringing their own meaning, whereas the people and their stuff, both in the older style of literary viewpoint that Tolkien was coming from, were all part of a preordained meaning.
Yeah.
Sort of an essentialism versus existentialism sort of philosophical difference.
On the modern
This game system that we are looking at, that we are creating in Downbelow, has definitely more of an existentialist philosophy to it, in that you create the meaning for your character. You decide what has any meaning for you in the story by saying, these are the things that will mean I can succeed. And in the course of play, by negotiating with the GM, this is what success means in this situation. This is what action means success, and this is what happens after the success.
On a less success-based note, but still very important for identity on the character sheet, a famous movie director once actually went to the lengths of deciding which of his characters smoked which brands of cigarettes, made a big deal out of it. I'll let you research which director this was, because I'm actually going to not dwell too much on the existential meaning of that for that character. But I will say, while always smokes Marlboros would not really necessarily be a very important success-based character trait, it might actually be one that the GM might actually ask you to change, because it's fairly close to being excessively British as terms of a success-based trait. It could actually still be vital for the character. If your character always only smokes one brand of cigarettes to the exclusion of all else, and they're trying to pin you at the scene of a crime by using a different brand, well, that's very important stuff for the story to know about your character, because while that may not get you off the hook for the frame job, that does at least give you a sense for how much the enemy knows about your character. They know you smoke, they don't know you always smoke a specific brand.
And that is an example of the kind of thing that once you establish it on screen, you could write that down in the general stuff area on your character sheet. It's not a success trait, it's not part of your indelible character, one of the things that makes you a force in the story.
Though it could very well count as a right tool for right job situation.
Exactly. So if it's been established on screen that you only ever smoke this brand, and the frame job situation comes up, you could try saying, well, they don't know this about me. And that could be something that gets your character out of a frame job in that situation. So, the other side of this identity on the character sheet issue, besides constantly updating details of what you've interacted with, who you've interacted with, and all of that in the stuff, contacts, and the more malleable area of your character sheet, there are times when you should change those more indelible, those long-term traits on your character sheet. So, if it was important at the start of the game, you may have written down that your character is good at shooting guns, and that your character lifts weights. But maybe as the story goes on, you have opportunities to shoot guns, but you don't have opportunities to use that physical strength represented by being a weightlifter, and you find that your character has less and less time to go to the gym and lift weights, and so it becomes time for you to ask the GM, hey, I would like to trade out this weightlifting trait for something that my character actually does more in the story. For example, we have investigated a lot of mysteries, and I've used this new super awesome computer that we acquired that is really easy to hide and has really high grade equipment in it for a lot of tasks to get the right tool for the right job bonus. I'd like to say that I'm good at computers now because I've been using it so much.
And I think that's actually something I'd like to take the ball with and run in the next video. So,
for today, we're going to thank you for falling through the cracks and hope that you're still down here with us next time.